Liz and I call it the smorgasbord of life. So we look at different successful people wherever, either personally that we meet or on podcasts and stuff, and we just go, that sounds really cool. And then we figure out how to implement it and make it happen. And that's what we learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can make anything happen with the power of your mind if you've got the focus and discipline.
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore really cool, interesting ways to achieve those two goals, and really cool, interesting people come on to help us. That's why I'm so happy that Matt Raad is with us today. He is going to teach us a really cool, interesting way that you can achieve financial independence. It doesn't involve saving up, and it doesn't involve stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff. It's something you can do right from your living room, right from your back deck. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, Christine. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. So first of all, why don't I do your intro? That would be helpful. Matt Raad has spent the past 27 years challenging traditional career paths and creating financial independence through digital investments. He and his wife, Liz, are website investors. They were one of the first to pioneer the strategy of buying, building, and selling websites as cash flow assets. Starting with nothing, Matt and Liz built a multi-million-dollar portfolio by applying their expertise in business acquisitions to the digital world. Today, through their e-business institute, they train everyday people like us, including corporate professionals, solopreneurs, and side hustlers, how to generate income online and reclaim their time. All right, now people know why they should be listening.
There we go. You got it, Christine. That's all. Well, anyone listening, you'll have to excuse me as well because I've got a very slight cough today. But
you're still going to have to do all the talking.
Yeah, thank you for having me on that. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
we get
it's
to
awesome.
talk about my favorite topic, which is financial independence and the unique way that Liz and I found that. Admittedly, it did take over 20 years, but I do like sharing the story though.
So did you ever have like a traditional job, what people would think of as like, your W-2, over here we call it W-2 income. Good. No. Well, that's great. You averted that path right away.
Yeah. Never worked 9 to 5.
Nice.
Neither of us. So yeah, I think from a very young age, I grew up in rural Australia, as did Liz. And we grew up quite, how do you word it? Quite poor. Like, finances were always a stretch for mum and dad. And on a farm, it was my parents didn't own the farm. Dad was the farm manager, and farm managers in Australia are not paid very much money. And so whilst we love living in a rural area, I always wanted financial independence as a very strong driver as a young child. And I grew up, and I repeated lots of patterns even in my early teens. We lived in very impoverished areas here in Australia. And it's funny how, you got to break out of that somehow. And when I met Liz, I realized I'd met someone else who wanted the same things as me. And I think that was the first part. And so our story is quite unique in that we did it in a totally bizarre way, which is buying and selling businesses. And, that's what we're here today to talk about. But out of all that, we came up with this strategy that we've been doing for the last 15 years, which is buying and selling online businesses, which, as you said, is a lot easier than the buying and selling traditional businesses.
So when you're talking about, because I did a couple of years ago, I interviewed a guy who basically flipped. I guess you could think of it as being like a website flipper, right? You buy this online business. It's, struggling. They've got lost links and, lost opportunity for revenue and stuff like that. And then he's like, all right, we're going to fix all this stuff. And then you turn it into a profit center and then you can resell it just like you would a house. And that's how I sort of was able to understand the concept. But I think, are you holding them or are you also reselling?
Yeah, for us, we very much are buy and hold. So we go for cash flow. So many years ago, we've been lucky. Part of our journey was for a number of years, we worked in mergers and acquisitions with very high net worths here in Australia. And we were helping them buy businesses because we were really good at it ourselves. This was in the bricks and mortar days. So we specialized in businesses. The reason this is important for listeners is we specialized in buying and selling wholesale import businesses or manufacturing businesses, because that's the
Okay.
sort of business that Liz and I first bought, and we got really good at it. And the lessons we learned from that was they're really tough cash flow
Yeah.
wise. All your net worth is tied up in a bank.
It's
As
always an
young
inventory.
entrepreneurs, it really did hold us back. We were constantly in debt. We nearly went bankrupt several times, depending
Yeah.
on your definition. You're on the edge with the banks the whole time,
Yeah.
many sleepless nights. And as a result, we really didn't, we came to dislike debt. It was like a anchor around our necks. And I know for you, Christine, and probably for a lot of your listeners, if you do the real estate thing, we're not into real estate. So we've never had a 9 to 5 job. We have
Right.
bought and sold real estate, but it's never been our main wealth generating strategy because of
Yeah.
the debt thing. And all our money always went back into our businesses to grow them. And we learned a lot through that. Whilst it was tough, we learned a lot. And we met a mentor and we're working with him. And he just said to us outright, guys, just go for cash flow. It's all about cash flow. You have to do that. And it was, remember that book when it came out, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It was in the late 90s. We were already buying and selling businesses by then. But
Yeah.
I think Robert Kiyosaki did nail it. It really was, it was just evidence to us that we were doing the right thing. And that's what we wanted, exactly what he talked about in that book. If you
Yeah.
haven't read that book and you want to get into business, to this day, it is still probably one of the most practical books
Yeah.
out there. I read it. I read back over to make sure, is it still up to date? Yes, it is. So,
Yeah.
except, so what we were looking for, I think he inspired on us. We realized we were trapped in debt heavy businesses because all our money went into inventory. So it was always
Right.
tied up in a warehouse. And when we read that book, he was talking about buying businesses that, and this is exactly what we wanted, that were more capital light, like laundromats and what was it, car washes back then, where you just buy them, put a jockey in to run it, and they're
Yeah.
kind of semi passive. And then at the same time, we started hanging around with people who were doing exactly that. And it was really cool. And our eyes were open. We're like, oh, wow, you can actually own a business that you only work a few hours a day in and make millions of dollars. And then it gets better. You know, multiple ones of those. Like you can, have like
Right.
Robert Kiyosaki talked about. And that's when you become a true investor. His rich dad, poor dad quadrant.
Right.
So we actually got to live and breathe that. We saw that happening right in front of us with our own personal mentors. These were private individuals, very private individuals. And so I guess that inspired us to go on to the next level, which was let's get the hell out of manufacturing businesses and wholesale import.
Yeah.
And whilst you can make a lot of money, it's going to take you 10 to 15 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
And around what was it, would have been the early 2000s, this thing called the internet started to come online, and we realized, oh, hang on a minute, this is the answers to everything. And that's when we realized we can just do exactly what our mentors are doing and what we've been doing we've been buying and selling businesses for the last 15 years at that point. We realized, let's just do it online. It was actually Liz that came up with the idea. She just said, what the hell are we doing with bricks and mortar business? Why don't we just do this online? We can literally be in America, because we used to export to America from Australia,
Yeah.
and it's huge risk. You're putting all your stock on a container ship and sending it overseas. And Liz just said, we can buy a website and be in America tomorrow morning, Matt, and literally no borders, 24/7. And literally the first site we bought, within a week, we had money in the bank account while we slept. Then that's when we knew we were on a winner. So that's basically our evolution. And that's what drove us to do that. And it just worked really well for us, really well.
So what was the first business that you bought, or the first website that you bought?
It was an affiliate site. So actually, what we did was there's an important part in our story there, and it's kind of a mindset lesson. Probably like a lot of your listeners, we could see the potential of this. And we were hanging around a lot of older gentlemen who were very successful, and they knew nothing about the internet, nor did we. We grew
Right.
up on farms.
Right.
And our biggest blockage, whilst we could see that it could get us into America or overseas or whatever, no borders or everything, we could sell online, we had no technical skills, and it really freaked us out. Back then, it was very difficult to build websites, to do the
Right.
technical
Right.
stuff. And
Yeah.
honestly, to this day, it's our biggest regret. They say, what are your regrets in life or in business? We put it off for 2 years, would you believe, which was really silly in hindsight. This is back in the early, well, kind of around 2005, I think we first saw it. So the technical side was very tricky. The way it was so compelling though. We actually went to a conference and we heard off someone that was making money online, and we said, all right, we've got to do this. So Liz just said, I'm going to figure it out, and she did. She self-taught herself how to hand code websites, and she built our first website. She built and hand built it. If anyone's listening and it's a bit technical, it was on a program called Dreamweaver back in the day, and it was a lot of effort, and it was very difficult to get that working. It took about 12 months, and she was about to give up. And luckily, she had a mentor who said, "No, you've got it to break even. Once, just keep going." And that site then, once she tweaked, figured out what to tweak, it went on to make $5,000 a month net profit. So that's when we said, wow, this is really cool. But Liz is very impatient, and she just said, I am not going through that again. Why don't we just do what we've always done, which is buy these things? Let's just privately approach people. There was no brokers back then for websites. No one was doing it. And she goes, well, because in the past, the way we bought the best businesses was private approach. You privately and very confidentially contact businesses like manufacturing businesses that we'd identify in industrial areas. And so we just did the same. We just found the niches that we liked online, which is typically hobby niches, and we just privately email them and say, hey, we're looking to get into this niche. We're cash buyers from Australia. Do you want, back then it was Skype. Do you want to jump on Skype if you're interested in selling it all? And we'd look for neglected sites. To this day, that's our number one strategy.
Yeah.
It worked. And we also buy through brokers, of course, because that's now taken off. But that's how we developed it. And so coming back to your original question, what was our first website? It was when Liz came up with this great idea, let's just buy these things. How do you do that? The first website we bought was actually on eBay, which I do not recommend now. And I remember Liz saying to the seller, he was a lovely guy in America, saying to the seller, why the heck are you selling this thing on eBay? And he said, why are you buying on eBay a website? Like, where else do we sell these things? And we're all laughing, going, okay, this is really tricky. And he'd never done it before. He'd never sold it. He just wanted cash. And that first site we bought for $20,000, and it was making $1,000 a month net at the time as an affiliate site.
Yeah.
And because we already had some technical experience, when we did the due diligence, we knew what we're looking for. We could see it had a lot of traffic, and it went to pretty much, to this day, this is the number one renovation we do. We just figured out where all the traffic was going. It was going to pages. It was a big site. It was going to website pages deep within the website that had no monetization on them at all. So within a week of buying it, we just put monetization, the main affiliate offer on those pages, and it jumped to $3,000 a month net profit. And we were hooked. We just went, okay, that was way too easy. We have never had that much success that quickly in business. And also, admittedly, we did have one big lucky break, Christine, which does sound unusual, but it might be relevant for these times. This was 2008. So it was the Great Recession. Yeah. So that's why this gentleman wanted to sell. He just needed cash, and I think in those times, it's like for you guys who are real estate investors that can and stock investors too. It can, if you know what you're doing, recessions are definitely the best time to buy undervalued assets.
Yeah.
Basic makeover, and you just sit on them for the cash flow. And that's why we sat on them for the cash flow. It wasn't worth selling them. The cash flows were just so high, and that's what kind of formed our strategy.
Interesting. So you ran some analysis tools. I mean, I'm thinking about back then. How did you realize that was where the majority of traffic was going?
And to this day, it's the number one tool we use. If you've had any experience online, you'll know what the tool is. It's just standard Google Analytics.
Okay.
So
that was already around then. I didn't realize that.
Google Analytics was there then, and what Google Analytics is, if you're listening to this, and you've never heard of it, it's a free, I guess, plugin or tool provided by Google, because Google wants to track everything, right? And so in return, we're giving them all their data, but pretty much every website on the planet now that's a serious website would use Google Analytics. So it's totally free. And it just literally tracks every single click across the website. So it gives you very in-depth data. And I think that's what excited us so much when we first started looking at this online space compared to bricks and mortar land. So when you're buying, especially when you're getting into bigger multi-million dollar bricks and mortar businesses, you've almost got to do forensic due diligence, and you've got to
Yeah.
hire accountants, and you've got to go through typically paper figures, which are sitting in someone's, office in an industrial area. And it
Yeah.
is quite tricky. There can be lots of skeletons in the closet. At least with online businesses, there is a very powerful tool called Google Analytics, which means at the very least, you can track every single click to that website over the last 5 years, decade. I don't need to call in an accountant. Once you know what you're doing, it's pretty straightforward what you're looking for too.
Yeah.
You're just verifying that traffic. So if you're listening to this, if you don't know what traffic is the amount of visitors that come to a website every month. And to this day, that is probably the number one due diligence tool we use. And you just request access to the webmaster or whoever owns a website. They can just give you a login to Google Analytics, so they can't fake it,
Right.
and you can live see the traffic that's going to any website that's got Google Analytics on it. And you'll find now if you buy a website through brokers, it's a condition of selling the website. It's got to have live Google Analytics. It's the
Yeah.
number one thing we say to people. Make sure if there's no live Google Analytics, no deal. We don't buy them.
Yeah. Because it's all on faith and you can't,
Yeah,
you know,
can be. Yeah,
if they don't know about Google Analytics, there's a good chance they don't know enough to make a website that you'd want to buy anyway.
yeah, yeah. And the other thing too that we found online, which was quite different to, I think, buying and selling bricks and mortar business, which was really refreshing for us. Here we are, strangers in Australia, totally different country. People are just so friendly. I don't know, maybe Americans are particularly friendly with Aussies. I don't know, but people, even to this day, people are very open online with, especially because we're buying passion sites. Hobby, like in crafting niche, sporting niche, photography, golf, lots of craft. We love craft sites, but people tend to be very open. So the other part of due diligence, we were shocked at how easily and openly people would just open up the bank accounts where the money goes into, and you can't fake that because it's all done on Skype, on kind of like
Yeah.
this, on which is Zoom now.
Yeah.
And people people just show you through the account. So it was, for us, it was a refreshing that people were so open about the due diligence process. They just share it. And if they're trying to hide something, you could nearly always tell because we have a lot of experience in working with people in due diligence in bricks and mortar. But in bricks
Yeah.
and mortar, it is really can be very tricky. And I speak from personal experience. We made lots of mistakes when we started out buying and selling bricks and mortar businesses. Um, and that was why we're very, very cautious on due diligence, always double and triple checking everything. But online, because everything's tracked, it's a lot easier to see how much money the site's making and how much traffic's going to it. And they're probably the two main things.
So did you know when you were in school that were you saying, okay, I've got to learn about business. I'm going to get my business degree and find out all about I need to know so I can start buying and selling businesses?
No, I failed school, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I got the marks, the only marks I got. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. But what I always, growing up on a farm, of course, I thought being rich was being a vet, and I wanted to go to vet school. And I guess in a way, that's why. So I ended up going to university studying zoology. That was the only marks I could get. I'd got enough in Australia back then. You could get into science with very little marks, and I figured if I do really well in that, that'll then give me I can jump over into either into veterinary science, or I had this vague idea like medical science and become a salesperson or something like that, and then move into my own business. So because literally I didn't know how to make money. I asked my mum. She was what do you call them? A PA, a personal assistant, and she said all the companies that she ever worked at, she goes that the highest paid people were the salespeople. So she suggested, why don't you get into like medical sales or something? And that was my very vague, rough plan. I didn't really think it through. I was also having a lot of fun in those days. Like I was just exploring myself, like a lot of people were. It was quite, if any young people listening to this, it was a lot easier back then, I've got to admit. It was a very different world than what it is today. Um, and my mum, it was thanks to my mum, she grew up very, very poor and in a particularly poor part of the world. And she said her biggest regret was not getting an education. So I was the first person in our family to go to university. And she said, just follow your heart. You've got no kids, you've got no responsibility at the moment. And so what I did do though, when I was at uni, I started my first business and I was a personal trainer at a local gym. And that helped put me through business. And as a kid, I always traded toys and stuff. And it's funny, my son, since he was 5, has always traded toys as well. So there's something there.
It's interesting, but you bring up a great point, and I actually was talking about somebody. I had a breakfast with somebody this morning. We were talking about that exact thing, that when you don't come from money, and maybe if you do, I don't know what it's like to come from money, but if you don't, you just don't even know what's possible. You don't even
No.
realize what
Yeah.
what magic thing that someone else has that you don't have, that you actually do have, right? You don't even
Yep.
know how to approach it. And as a woman, it was even worse, just saying, okay,
Yep.
I know I'm not happy. I know I don't want to just get married and have a bunch of kids. I want to do something fun, exciting. I want to travel, but I just didn't really have any role model for that. And it sounds like you're in the same situation, right? Like, well,
Absolutely.
I don't want to be a farmer. What else can I do? Well, as a
Yeah.
vet, that's another job. You saw 2 jobs, and one of them you liked, and one of them, said not as bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that was exactly me. And I think that's for a lot of people. And that's what we're trying to teach our kids. But even trying to, we coach a lot of 50-year-old plus people. The first thing we say to people is, and if you're listening to this podcast, presumably you're looking for financial independence, the first part of the step is exactly what you're saying, Christine, is you need a goal or a vision, and then you need role models. And you'll notice in our story, whenever I talk it through, I realize, oh yeah, Liz and I I was going to say we were lucky to have personal role models, but we actually made it a point of having role models. And one of the things that I did, one big important part of my story is I left home as soon as I finished high school. So I was 17 or
Mhm.
18, whatever. And I moved into Sydney, which is Australia's largest capital city. And I started to change my life. I knew I had to work on my confidence and things. So I went to a local gym. Now, luckily, that local gym was in an area of Sydney. It's a very eclectic place. There's some unusual people there, but there are a lot of high net worths there as well, because nearby was a very wealthy suburb of Sydney. And all of a sudden, talking of role models, because I had this, I always knew I wanted to be wealthy. And I figured if I become a personal trainer for those rich people, I can learn how they did it. So some of them were lawyers, but some of them were business people. And they were the ones I really wanted to hang out with. They were the ones that they worked whatever hours they wanted and they could do whatever they wanted financially. And so I got to train some really interesting people. And also at that time, talking of role models, you can read books. And on the gym wall this was in the late 80s, this poster of this guy called Arnold Schwarzenegger, who wasn't as famous as who he is now, but back then he was a rising movie star. And read his story, and he just started with nothing. Literally came to America with a bag with his gym clothes, couldn't even speak English properly, had a very challenging name, and was trying to make it in bodybuilding, which was a very fringe thing to do back then. And I absolutely loved that. And I thought, all right, if he can do it, I'm going to do the same thing. I will figure out this entrepreneurial journey. That's my mission. And so then I, luckily, through talking to successful people, they said you should read, the classics back then, like Think and Grow Rich. Um, what was the other one? Oh, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
All those, and then those business kind of ideas and expanding your thinking. And I think that was my early day role models. And to this day, I think I would credit that to our success. And if you're listening to this, I would suggest, it doesn't matter what strategy you select, whether it's shares, property, online businesses, or buying and selling businesses like we've done, it's got to start with that goal and vision. And then you need to find mentors, people that you can hang around with who've actually done it. And that's how I did it. I started, networking very deliberately from a young age with very successful business people. And I think I've been doing that really nicely for the last 30 years. That's our circle of friends. Where we even live now,
Yeah.
all our friends are, business owners, own multiple businesses. Some of them done big exits. And it, and also another little tip, we tended to hang out with people that were a bit older than us
Mhm.
because they had the success that we were looking for. And we just
Yeah.
got elements from their stories. And these days, the cool thing is you can listen to your podcast. That's the really powerful thing. I think learning off role models on podcasts is so much easier now. You can get the knowledge a lot easier. Listen to as many success stories as you can. And to that
Oh,
this day,
absolutely.
That's what we
No matter
signal.
what you want to do, right? You can
Yeah.
find dozens of people who are sharing their story online. You can
Yep.
find their YouTube channels. You can just really
YouTube channels.
soak in.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Soak it up.
Soak it
And
up.
then go out and make
Exactly.
it happen. You've got to execute on it at some point too. It can't just be a dream. But
Right.
I think
Exactly.
that Liz and I call it the smorgasbord of life. So we look at different successful people wherever, either personally that we meet or on podcasts and stuff, and we just go, that sounds really cool. And then we figure out how to implement it and make it happen. And that's what we learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can make anything happen with the power of your mind if you've got the
That's
focus and discipline.
absolutely true. And what you just have to believe in yourself first, right? Believe
Yep.
that it's possible. And then it just becomes possible. And it's just like, oh,
Yep.
wow, I did do that thing. And
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
And you look back at it and you go, wow, it worked. So for us, and for us, I think the accelerator in our journey was the buying and like buying online businesses because they just tick so many boxes. We didn't do e-commerce ever. We didn't touch that at all. Never bought an e-commerce business at all. Because it involves physical inventory and because of our experience in wholesale import. So if you're a beginner and you want to get online, my advice is avoid e-commerce businesses at first until you know what you're doing.
Well, so you bring up a great point because it's possible that some folks don't understand how the whole affiliate piece works. So do you want to
There
just
you
go into that?
go. Okay, so the sorts of sites that we do buy are, as you mentioned, affiliate sites or sites that sell advertising space. And these days there's a big opportunity because in this AI-driven age and with the algorithms, there's a there's a lot more value in websites that have a niche following. So corporate advertisers will pay you directly to sponsor your website or to be advertised on there. So that's very powerful. And of course, that involves no inventory. It just means you've got to build up a following on the website. And of course, if you're buying a website, may already have that following. But similarly, we can make really good money off affiliate sales, which means there's typically a link. If we're talking about a product or a service, if someone clicks that link, they're cookied, and we get a commission if they buy off whatever website they go to. So the classic is the Amazon affiliate program. Just Google it, go and have a look. It doesn't pay out very well, but it converts really well. So that's typically how we love making money. And the other way is if we sell information products like courses and things like that. And you can sell very niche courses in really obscure markets. We have a website about pigeon racing and we sell a course on that. And it's just a cheap little course, $47. To this day, it's on autopilot. We don't really touch it. Makes $1,000 a month. Not really,
Who knew there was so much demand to learn about pigeon
I
racing?
could not believe it. I mean, that's never going to make us millions, but $1,000 a month for, a
Well,
decade,
it's a great story.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, I was Liz bought that one. I was surprised at that. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we studied zoology at uni. We have no interest in pigeon racing at all. But it's a huge niche, bizarre marketplace. We have clients that have been, pardon me, in really bizarre niches. We've got one client that's it's this little tiny website. It's about odor removals, like how to remove odors from pets and things. And that site, same thing, makes about anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month. That's a month net,
Yeah.
just on autopilot. They don't touch it. They did a reno, and it just sells an affiliate product. It's like cleaning products, odor removal products. People click on the link, they buy it on Amazon, and it's got ads on it as well. So just simple little. See, you think about it, doesn't sound that exciting, $1,000 a month, but this is the beauty why we got this strategy of buying portfolio. You own 9 more of those, 9 more. For most people, that's
Exactly.
quit their job time.
Exactly.
So,
The very first person I interviewed for the podcast had his own podcast called Cash Flow Guys.
oh yeah,
And that's exactly what he said. He said, figure out how to make 1,000, or he actually said, figure out how to make $100 a month passive and then just do
yep,
it again and again and
just
again
do
until
it
you get to the
again.
cash flow you want to be at.
That's brilliant. And seriously, that's what we figured out and we see that with our clients. Once you get that first $1,000 a month, okay, now you've got a system and you've just got to go through and do it another 9 times.
Yeah.
And that's really because a lot of our clients, probably like someone listening to this, are in corporate roles. They're burnt out. They're not working 9 to 5. They're working 5 till 9 these days, it seems. And I know for you guys in America, you've got, your job security. You can lose your job what is it, within 24 hours or something now. We've got lots
Oh
of,
yeah, it's just like
yeah, we've got lots of US clients now who are telling us that. Like, these are people in very highly paid jobs. They're telling us, Matt, I can turn up because they work from home. I can turn up to work and the screen will say, you are, literally says, you are terminated. Like we don't have that here in Australia. There's some of our US clients who are in highly paid technical roles. They reckon they can be terminated straight away. And, I think that's coming to Australia as well. There's no job security anymore. So what we say to people is learn these digital skills if it's something that you're interested in, just even as security for your future, so that you've got an alternative, side hustle, or just start playing with it. And I think that's something I'd like to say to someone, any listening to this. Please don't hear our story and rush out there and buy a big website without knowing what you're doing. Start out small. It's not like the bricks and mortar days where you had to spend $100,000 to get a half decent business. You can buy a small little website to learn on under $5,000. It's not going to make you rich, but you'll get the skills up. And that's
yeah,
probably the main part of the journey.
yeah. So how can they learn from you, Matt?
Well, that's the other thing, of course. If you want to, and come to ebusinessinstitute.com.au. It's an Australian website, but we do have a lot of US clients now. We've got a free masterclass on there if you want to explore our strategy and have a look at. We in that masterclass we show the sorts of sites we're buying and how we're doing the due diligence and what clients are the sorts of sites that our clients are buying. And you can see the overall strategy. We're about that safety of a portfolio, owning multiple websites. Start out small, buy little tiny sites, and then just build up your skills and your cash flow that way. We've found that works really well.
Awesome. And those notes will be those those links will be in the show notes, so you don't have to try to write all that down. You can just scroll down and click, and then you'll be able to find Matt and Liz and take the master class. I mean, what do you get to lose? It's kind of fun. It's
Yeah.
interesting, and you might find out that you're really good at finding niche kind of websites and turning them around.
Yep. Yeah, lots of opportunities out there with the way the market is now and what's about to happen in the economy. And I think, with the future and AI as well, it's on one hand there's more challenges, but on the other hand it's even easier. The tech side is a lot easier now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Matt, what's a question that you wish I would have asked you that we haven't touched on?
Oh, what is my main parting advice for someone looking to get started, I guess, online, or financial independence online?
Okay.
That's easy for me. So do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please. Do you
Well,
want me to ask it
there's two.
again? So it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like it came from
Well,
me.
so what would be my main bit of advice for someone wanting to get started in this online space and building a portfolio of websites? It would be start out small and safe. Don't jump in too big. And so it's kind of a two-part answer. But the very first skill you should actually learn is the digital skills. And honestly, the most practical skill you can learn right now is how to build a website and how kind of this online space works. So anything you can do to educate yourself around that, if you're a total beginner, and then of course it's mindset and set a goal for the next 5 years of your life.
Excellent. That's great advice, Matt. I'm glad you asked it. I'm glad you asked yourself that question.
Thank you, Christine. It's a great
Awesome.
question.
It's a great question. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this today. I think it's kind of fun. Actually a question that, I'm curious about, just thinking about implementing some of your advice, is finding people to advertise on the site. Do they actually reach out to you, or do you approach people or businesses?
It's a really good question. Like anything in life, to get the best ones, you've got to reach out and you need some success first, but they do approach you as well. There's also agents, like there's advertising agents that can help you. The good news, so I'll give you an example. We have a lovely young couple who live the young people don't care about how much money they make. They just want to live on the laptops these days. And they literally, Chris and Beck, travel around Australia in a 4-wheel drive bus, so like a big RV home, but it's 4-wheel drive. And they've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years now. And they're travel influencers, travel bloggers. And it's just so people have got an idea of how long this has taken. It's not a get rich quick overnight type thing, but that their journey's taken them about 5 years. And now they have corporates reaching out to them because they've got such a position online, on social media, but also with their blog, and they get $10,000 sponsorship deals now. And I did an interview with them recently, and Beck just said 5 years ago, they would never, this was to start as a passion site. It's just a thing to track their journey. They also own other websites. That's how they actually make their money. It's not
Yeah.
their main website. But they said 5 years ago, they would never have imagined some corporate handing them $10,000 for, to, promote some product. So once you get successful online, corporates will reach out to you, but it's still, in my opinion, like anything in life. I just love that American term, which we learned off Arnold. It's the hustle. You definitely get more results if you get out there and make it happen.
Well, because you can imagine if you have 3 corporates or 5 corporates bidding on the ad
Yeah.
for your website, as opposed to just taking the check that someone offered you.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, actually, for them, where they twigged onto this, it was actually, it was a the tourist board of, not even here in Australia, of another country. I think it was in Dubai or something, for some reason, reached out to them and said, hey, we noticed you guys are really big travel influencers, and they wanted more of a presence in Australia. And they said, here's literally a 6-star hotel trip to Dubai and everything paid for. Airline tickets, all you've got to do is blog about it for the next 3 days or something like, it was something like that.
What
And
fun.
And yeah, Chris rang me up for a coaching call because I've been his coach for many years, and now he's a coach with us. And he just said, "What do I do?" I said, "Mate, take it." And okay, it's got nothing to do with Australia because their travel blog's all about traveling around Australia, and just see what doors it opens. It's going to look really good on your CV. Put it on your website. You make sure you let other advertisers. This could be the start of corporate sponsorship, and it was. So they didn't get paid money then. They just got a free experience. And since then, they've got one right now that is $20,000. It's their biggest one yet, and it's with another tourist boards. They who would have figured they want travel
Even have those kind of
influencers.
budgets. It's great.
Yeah, and they know this is for anyone listening. This is why niche websites, doesn't have to be in a travel blog, can be food blogs, can be crafting blogs, anything, or gardening or photography. Anyone with a niche audience these days is very, very valuable, because print media is dead. No one's advertising on TV anymore. How else do these tourist companies get their clients? So they go to these travel influencers or food bloggers or whatever the niche is. So food for thought, if you're listening to this, some of those little niche websites that you're looking at are probably worth way more. The owner is probably making a lot of money, more so than you thought. And if you see the advertise here button on the website, just big tip, if you want to have a sticky beak at how much money they're making, click on that advertise here and see what their advertising rates are. You'll get a surprise. It'll be very inspirational for you.
Awesome. Excellent. Thanks so much, Matt. I love talking to you. This was fun. I
Thank
appreciate you being on the
Christine.
show.
That was unreal. Likewise, I enjoy chatting to you about these sites.
Well, and thank you, listener, for listening. I bet that this gave you some ideas, some things to think about, and now your mind is racing with who you want to share it with. All the fight, like minimum 5-10 people for this episode to them. They're going to be so excited. They're going to thank you. And Matt and I are going to thank you too. So you're going to be a popular person all the way around.
Thank you, Christine. That was awesome. Thank you.
And have a fabulous week. We'll see you next week.